And joining us to discuss this historic day of trading is Lawrence Sprung, founder of Mitlin Financial and the author of Financial Planning Made Personal. So good to see you this morning. I want to jump in and get your personal experience with yesterday. You obviously have a lot of clients who have invested in the markets. I'm sure your phone was ringing all day. What was it like for you?
It was quite a day, and one for the record books, and one that is definitely a highlight of my 26-year career. But I think the main takeaway for us and the families we serve are the fact that, when volatility started coming into play last week, and we were sharing with them our thoughts about staying the course and that being the best course of action, and looking at some of the statistics about 10 best days of the year sometimes come after some of the worst days. Yesterday was an extreme example of that fact.
Yeah, what do they say? The darkest hours right before the dawn. Now, I know you've seen a lot in your career in the finance world. How does this week compare with the other major volatility events that you've seen in your lifetime or perhaps studied when you were in school?
I mean, this one was certainly different because it wasn't really like, for example, we've heard people trying to correlate this to 2008, for example, right? The most recent great financial crisis. And that was really a crisis of banking. This was really of policy. And we haven't really seen many events that have had major market impacts that were due to policy. And I think, looking at some of the news that's coming out this morning, I know that they're talking about the fact that, China was retaliating, but at the same time, it also looked like they were getting nervous in terms of the Treasury with regard to what was happening with the Treasury market yesterday. So it's definitely interesting. I think there's a lot of similarities between a lot of these market events, but differences as well.
Now, before we go into advice and personal finance tips, I just want to get your reaction. Trump goes on Truth Social. He says it's going to be a great day to buy, and then he makes the announcement again on Truth Social in the early afternoon. Have you ever seen anything like this? It's almost like out of a reality show or something like that.
I have not. It's pretty interesting to see that happen, and I was not live, as a matter of fact, on Truth Social. I didn't see it, but we were in the meeting with a family that we served yesterday, and they mentioned that comment that President Trump made, and then as we came out of the meeting, the markets were up 2,000 plus points, and I think at the end of the day, that's got to give you some pause.
Now, perhaps some traders were able to make money on the way down and then back up if they're, looking at these, movements and they trade algorithmically. But for the average Main Street investor, are there any lessons learned here?
I think the lesson learned is the one that we were sharing last week when the volatility hit, and that is that staying the course is typically the proper path. I think the most important thing is to make sure that you have a financial plan if you don't get one in order. And then when these times arise, because they will come again, this won't be the last bit of or bout of market volatility that most people see in their lifetime. But having that plan and then benchmarking how this volatility is impacting, or maybe not at all their plan, is usually refreshing. And we've seen a lot of that through the conversations we've had with families over the last week, showing them that although we've seen this retracement, and even if it goes substantially further, that it's not going to impact their long-term plan. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's not about the here and now. It's about what can be done from here going forward.
Well, you mentioned a very colorful anecdote about actually being in a meeting with the family, going through things, and there's breaking news. That doesn't happen that often. But looking forward to the rest of the year, what advice will you be sharing with your clients in terms of the effects of what appears to be an escalation in the global theater with China?
Yeah, I mean, we think that things will settle down, and we're pretty optimistic on the way things will materialize for the rest of the year. If we are able to avoid this, the substantial trade war and mitigate it somewhat, we feel recession won't be on the horizon, and we can see some decent returns from the markets. But again, with the families we work with, we're really more focused on the long term for them, not necessarily what's going to happen today or tomorrow. But we're pretty optimistic based upon what we're seeing, because I think at the end of the day, there is this trade deficit that needs to be addressed. There's a number of different ways to go about it. Maybe this was the right one, maybe it was the wrong one, but I'm confident that we'll get it resolved, and it'll be a favorable one, not only for our trading partners, perhaps, but also for the economy as well as the markets, and ultimately who we care about, the families we serve and their financial plans.
Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Lawrence Sprung with Mitlin Financial. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.